getting into water, and welcome everyone to this our what are we in? August, July, month ahead of myself, and I'll start with our opening prayer. We give thanks for the contribution by our pioneers, early settlers, and for those who fought in the various wars for the fabric of the Tenterfield community we have today. May the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be accepted in thy sight, O Lord. Amen. The acknowledgement of country, I would like to acknowledge traditional custodians of this land who are meeting on today. I would also like to pay respect to elders, both past and present, of the Juckable, Kamilaroi and Bundjalung nations, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present. Councillors, no apologies. I think Councillor Petrie's not apologies. She's fashionably late, but we are starting. We do start 9:30. Councillors, any disclosures of interest? No? Councillors, we'll move on to the confirmation of our previous minutes. They're in the front of your agenda, starting on page 8. Would someone who is in attendance at the meeting like to move that they are a true and correct record of the meeting, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second by Councillor Murray, and I thank you. All in favour? Again, carried. Thank you. Councillors, moving our community consultation. We do have speakers this morning to do with. Apologise. Where have I got that? Oh, I've got it here now.
Paper again.
Yeah. No. Sorry, councillors. Yeah, no, I've got it here somewhere. Thank you. Councillors, we have Speaker Mr. Jeff McKillop. It's to do with item ENV 11/19 to do with the Mount Lindsay Road Waste Collection Service 2019. Councillor McKillop is speaking against the report going today. Councillor McKillop, Jeff McKillop. Jeff, would you like to come forward, please? Councillors, please stand and welcome a guest to our chamber, please. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillors.
Mr. McKillop, you have 5 minutes.
I do.
When you get to 4 minutes, I'll give you a minute warning.
Yes.
Okay. But welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome, councillors, and thank you very much, and senior staff. Okay, let's go to the big question. 51% say no. 49% say yes. That is that they want wheelie bin. 51. Now, whichever way you look at the vote, the answer is clear. You can't dispute the fact that it is a clear majority. Some may. Not everybody will be happy. You can't have everybody happy on something that is this close, but I still think there's a majority. Now, but the majority are, if you are voting for a club, a committee, an election, if one person or a group has a majority of one vote, just one vote, that is the result. That is how democracy works. Councillors asked for a survey and the result is in. Now it is up to all the councillors to honour that result on the one important question. No means no. No wheelie bins. Now, for those councillors who are not familiar with the area, if you'd like to go to your heat map, which is attachment 1, if you go to the area of Wilson's Downfall, which is near my finger there, you'll see some green dots, people who want bins. Now, if you go west towards Ruby Creek, where you meet the very to the border, there's also some green dots there. They want bins. That's quite okay. I let them have them. But you got to remember that the truck that's turning off Mount Lindsay Road needs to travel 9.9 kilometres one way turn around, come back, let's say 19.8 kilometres to get back to Mount Lindsay Road. Now, if we look to the area, the red area, obviously they had received a survey and they said no. But if it was opt-in, opt-out, and these people, or mandatory, these red area that is named as Maryland Creek or Ruby Creek, now this is council's map. If they were mandatory, what happens? We're going to add 14 kilometres onto that, okay, to pick up. Now, I don't know how many houses are in that area. It's been years since I've been in that area, but there you are. So we're looking at a total of, no, sorry, this area on the two lot is an area of about 8 kilometres. Now, if we go down to Liston and we head east, the road there is not marked in. It's Rivertree Road. But we're looking to the area of the green area of Patterson's Scrub. Also an area called a very small green dot, let's say one house, I've called the Desert. Now, for the truck to service that area, I don't know how many houses are there. There may be just a few. That's another 9 kilometres away from Mount Lindsay Road. Now, we're not talking about on or along Mount Lindsay Road. This is where the truck has got to drive away from it. So there's a little bit of travelling there. So just to fill you in there, there's lots of information that the council have come up with in your pie charts. Yes, that is relevant. But the big question, the majority, that's how democracy works. 51% say no, 49% say yes. I know that your councillors would like to try and keep everybody happy, but sometimes it just doesn't work. So, no means no.
1 minute.
Thank you very much, councillors. That's for me. If I'm allowed, if anybody has got any questions, I'm not sure if that is applicable or not, but I'm available for any other questions.
Ms McKillop, I didn't mean you to stop because you had 1 minute. You could have kept going, but councillors will allow that. We do have a minute if there is a question to Mr McKillop. Councillors, no? Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thank you.
I wish you well. Councillor, I do apologise. I will go back in our order of business. We do have a declaration of interest, and I apologise. It's to do with the item ENV 11/19, so it's appropriate to mention it here. To do with the Mount Lindsay Road waste from Councillor Very. He does receive the bin service, and it's less than non-pecuniary. So thank you, Councillor. So it's noted in our agenda. Councillors, next in our public access session is Mr Peter Robinson. He's speaking on the on item RC 15/19, reports of committees and delegates, Tourism Advisory Committee, Tanfield meeting 30th of July. Speaking in support of that, Mr Robinson, would you like to come forward, please? Once again, councillors, please stand and welcome a guest to our chamber. Thank you, councillors. Mr Robinson, the same rules apply. 5 minutes, and I'll give you a warning at 1 minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. I much appreciate it. I just got back late yesterday from a 4,000 kilometre trip around outback towns in this area, and what I've learnt has been extremely interesting. I started with Emmaville, a tiny little town, and I'm ashamed to say I've never been to their museum, which is so well worth a visit. It's just amazing, and it gives an example of what so many of us don't know about in our own shire. From there, I went out through Moree and then northwest beyond out to Winton, and then north past Hughenden. So I've covered a huge area. And what is very, very obvious is that the rural communities are suffering. We've got an aging farming population. And in fact, I visited a friend's farm where The sons are no longer working on the farm except at weekends. They have to earn their money from diesel mechanic. So the farmers are having a struggle. They're getting lower returns in that the income is not keeping up with the expenditure, and now the massive problem of drought as well, which is very apparent everywhere. What was really, really apparent was that through some towns and communities, there was a positive look. The place was clean, the shops were open, the gardens were well kept, and it was very, very obvious that it was a positive, progressive town. Other communities, they were obviously in decline, there were closed shops, the gardens weren't looked after. And it was very, very clear to me that the council had a major influence in this. The council gardens were well kept in the good places. The shops were open, presumably through encouragement and everything. And it seemed important that we realise how important the council is in supporting the economy of a community. And it's very much so in this community here. It needn't cost council. This can be cost neutral because the income which is gained from, for instance, business rates and turnover and residents having jobs must repay the small amount of money that council puts into keeping the place looking good. Tourism is definitely an important economic asset to these places. Tourism is rising so quickly. The number of recreational vehicles being registered in this country now is higher than any other class of vehicle. There's nearly 2/3 RVs, recreational vehicles, and it's rising at least 5% a year. This is a massive market, and the rural economy is suffering, but the urban economies are still okay. And these people are coming out into our areas. They have money to spend. They're coming for weeks, months, even years. I talk to travellers who've been on the road for 2 years. Others, for instance, come over from New Zealand for 6 months. There's an enormous pool of money out there which needs to be grabbed by a town like ours, which is really on the knife edge as far as economy is concerned. Now, when I was going around, I picked up this amazing thing called the Matilda Country Guide. It's produced by a little family firm in Dalveen, believe it or not, called Action Graphics. They do a lot of other things. They do several guides around the country, and they do, for instance, they produce the Tenterfield map here, which we give out in the information centre to almost every person. They do the shirts, which we wear in the information centre, and amongst other things, they do the archery targets for the Tenterfield Archery Club, along with Councillor Peters' wonderful bales of hay, which people shoot arrows into. So it's very much a local business. And the information provided in here was so interesting. I would like to leave it for people to look at. If anybody would like a copy, I'll get one, because every little town has a mass of information which makes you want to stay for 2 or 3 days, which is what we keep saying in this community. We want people to stay 2 or 3 days or longer. You can do it. People keep coming into the information centre and saying, we're here for a couple of hours or a day, what can we do? And rather than give individual things like the Railway Museum and the Sadler, there's a whole raft of things that can be done to happily keep people here for a week. I haven't seen anything where I've been in the last 2 or 3 weeks which really compares with the Shire of Tenterfield. We've got so much in this whole Shire, geographically, historically, and so on. We've got enormous potential. I think we've seen that in the results of what Councillor Brian Murray started with the Main Streets programme. I know there was opposition, including within the council, to that programme, and yet it's so blatantly obvious that it's a great success. And that was pushed initially by one person, and I acknowledge that. There's another programme coming up, which is the Perry's possibility to improve the Main Street even more, which would be fabulous. But we need to build more onto this. There's so much more. And
1 minute, Mr. Robinson.
Individual people can contribute to that. One example, for instance, we've got these wonderful brochures which are put up by there's Granite Belt, Glen Innes and so on. There's bird watching guides being developed and all this kind of thing. So there's enormous potential to really develop this area. But what can really help is this idea of a community committee like the Tourism Advisory Committee with input from so many people who have so much to offer, and that can then be overseen by the council, but then they can load that off. They don't need to spend money on it because it's self-supporting. All these are supported with adverts. This is the Upper Clarence tourist map. Lots of information with adverts all around it, which is paid for it. It's completely self-sustaining. And all this can be done with the management by council of input from all the individual tourist operators and other people who have enormous experience. There's a lot of experience out there. 10FM's going well. It's just had 4 new committee members, new to the area, who are full of enthusiasm and experience. And what this committee can do is to gather this experience, information, and produce a real knockdown image of Tenterfield as the place to come. The bypass is coming, we've got to counteract that. And we want to make Tenterfield into a location which people really want to come to, spend a few days here with the kids, or as a retiree to spend their retirement part of it here. So please, let us do it now. Let's not say it's in being planned. Let's not say it's on the back burner or even the front burner. The time to do it is now. And now this has started, I hope that it can really take off. We've got bike trails to start with, but there's bird watching, photography, scenic drives, walks, so many other things. And now is the time to get this together and say, okay, Tenterfield is a real destination to go to. Let's go there, so that even if there's a bypass, we're going to drive in there, we're going to have a holiday there, we're going to spend some time there. So thank you for the opportunity to hopefully encourage people to really make tourism much, much bigger than it already is.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Okay, councillors, we'll move on. We'll go on to our agenda on page 23. Councillors, just for your information, we are having an Australian citizenship ceremony at 11:15. So 10:15, I'm sorry. I'm going real good this morning, no way. 10:15, and then we'll break for smoke out then. Okay, move on to page 23 in your hard copy. So it's item MM6/19. It's a Merrill minute to do a funding for helicopter landing pads. We're right. So it is a Merrill minute. Councillor Bob will ask for a seconder, please. Councillor Bob Reagan, I thank you. Councillor Office is from Meets to seek government funding for the helicopter landing pads, not only in Tenterfield but also in outlying villages to support safety for the new and heavier helicopters that are being used, and meet with the Westpac Helicopter Organisation to find out where these pads would need to be. I thought it was important, councillors, that I bring this forward because attending a dinner with the board, they actually held a board meeting up here some months ago, and I did mention to the board then that we'd be supportive in sourcing government funding to do such a thing. The brand new helicopters, they are of a heavier nature and have caused a little bit of problematic issues in our town here to do with landing at Federation Park, to do with the sprinklers, and councillors just spent a lot of money upgrading the sprinkler system there, although we can't use it at the moment. But I thought it was appropriate, especially to put in that we go and have a look at the villages also. Irvinville does have a landing pad; it's all good, but I think it'd be supportive of the villages and if and when and hopefully never that the helicopter has to use those areas. Happy to take any questions or hope for your support, Councillor Peters.
Drake, remember we had a look at a place for the landing pad down there. Did they ever go ahead? What happened there?
No, well, hopefully, very good question, Councillor. Become a bit problematic actually with the ownership of the Oval, if that's what you're referring to. I think Councillor has moved a fair way forward there in sorting a lot of that out. That was the biggest stop there, Councillor. So that's with this motion, hopefully that it'll drive that we actually go and do something here, but we are sourcing funding from the government to pursue this, and I think it's something that would attract funding actually, especially across the board. They've got to be about 20 metres by 20 metres, and obviously of a substantial depth to take. I think they're about 7 tonne, the new helicopters. So that's what it's all about. And it's not a short-term thing. It's, you know, once we get going with this and if we do it over a period of time, that's what we're looking to do, I think anyway. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Verry, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Forbes.
I think finding a place around Liston will be difficult
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
because a lot of it's surrounded by private land.
Yeah.
Unless we clean up a patch in the PP board, which I think would probably be the best spot for it.
Yeah, but Councillor Verry, I mean, those are the things we need to know and move forward with this. And when I done this, and I was thinking the same thing, that, you know, that areas that I know when in one of our federal members' trips, when he used to use a helicopter a lot, he landed up there at the Lavender Farm because that was the most appropriate spot. But yeah, no, but we'll work with them and just have a bit of a look and see and move forward with whatever we need to do. But as I said, it's more long-term than short-term. Yeah, but it is there. Councillor Forbes?
I'm just curious that the Federation Park, they seem to always be landing on the field.
Yep.
The other night I noticed they landed.
Microphone, please, Councillor.
They landed on the eastern side of
Yep.
I thought.
Yep.
So, but there is a pad up at the top there, near the netball courts, I thought. Never seemed to land there.
There's a helicopter pad there.
I thought there was.
Embarrassingly, I'm not aware of that, Councillor.
Well, there's the wind sausage up there. But,
Yep. I asked to say, because there's already been a bit of background work done on this,
Yeah.
and Terry, CE will just inform us a little bit of work that's already been done.
But I noticed when they landed on the Federation Park a couple of weeks ago, it was made a hell of a dust storm
Yep.
there for a while. Yeah.
They took photos of it, actually,
Yeah.
video.
Yeah.
So they did. Do you want to just comment this?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. This actually came up at one of the bushfire debriefings as well, and we've been caught a little bit short with this because we actually haven't got a Shire-wide strategy in relation to emergency evac for helicopters. Our LEMO, or one of the LEMOs, the HR and Workforce Development Manager, Barry Frew, he's pretty passionate about this, being an Civil Aviation Authority senior operative. He's been talking about this for some time, so it was quite fortuitous that the Merrill Minute came up. Mr. Frew's already spoken to the CE of the hospital, the RFS, about potentially over improving their site over behind the Tenterfield Transport Museum and RFS over in Lewis, what's the name of the street?
The street.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Anyway.
Francis Street.
I keep saying
Thank
Lewis
you,
for some
Councillor.
reason, Francis Street. But we really needed a council a resolution to keep going with it, because it's going to involve a little bit of time. And if we've got a council resolution, it adds more weight to any grant applications that council may make.
Councillor Forbes, I just need to add, in case councillors were asked, with that particular visit by the emergency chopper the other night and why the lights weren't turned on the Federation Park, I did have the sergeant, our local sergeant, approach me and ask why they weren't. I don't certainly switch them on. The hospital do. Apparently the helicopter pilot, they do have access to some technical thing they can do from the chopper to switch them on. Why they weren't switched on, I'm sharing with the councillors, I don't know. And they end up using the what we call the hockey fields across the creek. So hopefully that never happens again, but there was seemed a bit of an issue. He did have 3 or 4 or 5 approaches apparently. So I'm just sharing that with the council for your information, that it is noted, and we don't want that to happen again, but I don't know why they weren't switched on. But anyway, did you want to, yes, of course, Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you.
Yep.
I just want to commend you on bringing this before council. I
Thank
think
you.
it will be properly utilised if successful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any more questions, comment, councillors? Okay, councillor, thank you for the support there. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And Mr. C, thank you for the work that councillor's already done in a bit of research work there. So, as you always are, you're straight onto it. Next Merrill Minute, councillors, page 24. It's item MM7/19. survey for waste bin service at Bryans Gap Road. I will ask for a second here. It is a Merrill minute. Councillor Very, I thank you. Once again, councillor, I have had over a period of time, especially in the last 6 months, plenty of inquiry out that way. It is an area that's been developed a lot in the last few years with housing out there. It's like a little estate. And I just want to start the process about a letter drop there to see who wants to. Here we are talking about bin services and all we are today. I thought it was quite appropriate, actually. So anyway, I'm not being problematic, making another problem, but that community, and they'll tick the box whether they want it or not. So that's what it's all about. Once again, being a Merrill minute, happy to take any questions or any comment there. Councillor McNish, and then I'll go to you, Councillor Very.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I didn't declare a conflict of interest here. I didn't think it warranted it.
No, noted, councillor.
I wonder, this would be more an operational matter than a Merrill minute, because I was under the impression a Merrill minute was something fairly serious and
Yep.
something rather urgent.
Yep,
Whereas this is purely an operational matter.
yep.
And I don't know why it just wasn't left to the bureaucrats to, come up with an item in the business paper to discuss it then.
Right.
I haven't got an opinion one way or the other. It doesn't worry me, but I just thought it's inappropriate use of a Merrill minute.
Noted, councillor. Thank you. Councillor Very.
Mr Mayor, I've been asked about this survey here, is why council actually goes to the public with these things. Why don't they just install it like they do in other shires?
Good question. Mr. C, you want some comment there?
Through the urban area, it's a little bit different because you've got the scale of, a few thousand people living there. It really will be a council decision based on the finances as well, to see if it's financially sustainable, but also what the people want out there. It's one of those things where it's tomatoes or tomatoes. It's outside of the jurisdiction of the town limit, so it's in a no man's land. People outside of the villages and the town pay a waste transfer station access levy, which is about $350 a year, I think, 356 or something like that. And then when they take their waste to the transfer stations, they pay per trailer load. And I did on the weekend, and I paid $18 for my load. And I wish there was a service out there to consider it. It'd be great. I'd pay 3 years in advance in case the council changed their mind. But yeah, this is just one of those things where it's it's in a grey area, and I'm pleased that it's in the form of a recommendation. I take Councillor McNish's comments on board, but it would be good to see what the public out there actually want. There is a few houses out there. It is a bit similar to the northeast corner of Tenterfield. They're a little bit harder to see because they're hidden a little bit by the number of hills and valleys out there, but I think it'll be surprising how many people are out there, and I think the results will be surprising too.
Thank you. Councillor Sawyer, you've indicated?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm in support of the survey being done, but given our experiences with the Mount Lindsay Road survey, can we please ensure that the survey says the majority will be the ultimate decision, so that it's clearly expressed at the start of the process?
Good point.
Not halfway through.
Good point, councillor. We learn as we go, councillor. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions, councillors, comment? All happy to be supportive of the Merrill minute. All in favour? Against? You're against, Councillor McNish? Noted. Councillors, we move on to page 25 in your hard copy. It's item COM 6/19, Mingula Waste Transfer Station. Can I have a move in a second to deal with this item, please? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Rogan, thank you. Is Heidi presenting this? Paul, Fiona. Okay. Who wants to go first? Right, and welcome, Hyde, straight into the seat. Councillors, while I'm here, I do want to acknowledge Mr. Paul Della. Paul's doing Coley's job for a couple of weeks. Welcome, Paul, and stepped up to the mark straight away and had a tie on all week. How about that? So he did. See, the money turned up. See. Anyway, and just to add to that, Penny Chisholm will be coming in when we do the financials, and I welcome Penny. She's here waiting in the wings, and we've got good staff who step up into these positions, and I think that's great, shows great strength. Heidi, would you like to, and with the help of Fiona, present this report?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to seek
You're right.
council approval for a licence for approximately 10 hectares out at Mingoola, so it can be a waste transfer station. So in the minutes, there's a plan showing the indicated area of the 10 square metres, and also another plan just showing its location and proximity to Mingoola as well. It's just adjacent to the existing waste bins that are currently located there at the moment. So we are seeking a resolution to obtain a licence from the Minister for the 10 hectares for the purpose of constructing a waste transfer station. We're also seeking a recommendation to authorise the Chief Executive to sign the licence, and also to conduct investigations and processes into the way of compulsory acquiring the land.
Heidi, if I can go first, just to, it's only one of those read the map things. Is it, because most of the councillors would be aware of that area. So this area we're speaking of is just up where the skip bins are now. Is that up where that old quarry was? Okay, good. Thank you. I was hoping that. That's a good area. Questions to Heidi to do with the report, or Fiona, councillors? No? All happy? Oh, Gary, sorry, Councillor Very?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Some of the people from Mingoola have put it to me that they'd rather cart their rubbish into Tenterfield to save that. And other people are against it, so it's a 50-50 one again, but it seems to be we're bogged down in rubbish with this meeting today.
Well, we'll put them all in the front so we deal with them, councillor. You blow me away with that comment. That's changed. God, Christ. Councillor Peters, did you indicate? You're right. Any other questions to do with the report, councillors? No? All in favour of adopting the report? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Heidi. Page 29, councillors. It's to do with item EC 012/14. Peter Allen Festival to do 2019 to do with the road closure. Can I have a move in a second to hear, please, councillors? Councillor Murray, is this right-hand side's on fire this morning? Second, please. Councillor Rogan, thank you. They're all asleep over on the left. Anyway, it's like an auction. And I will, with our Acting Manager of Economic Development and Community Engagement, to present this report. Mr. Della, front and centre.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This report is about providing support for the 2019 Peter Allen Festival by providing some supplementary sponsorship to the value of $2,952.99 so that the full fee involved in the road closure can be satisfied. And that full fee, based on our current fees and charges, is $8,614.50. Now, you might recall through our budget discussions that we've had talks around making sponsorships of different organisations a bit more transparent. And this is really what the crux of this is doing. It's saying, yes, we do want to provide some sponsorship to help offset this cost for the festival, as has been requested. But we also want to recognise that there is a full fee involved as per council's fees and charges. It achieves the same result. It provides a sponsorship and reduces the cost, but it just recognises in council's books that there is that sponsorship that we're paying. That's it in a nutshell, basically.
All open and transparent. Mr. Della. Questions to our Acting Manager Development Community Engagement to do with the report, councillors? No? Okay. All in favour of supporting the report? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, moving to page 32 in your hard copy. Item EC 013/19, funding for bridge over the Clarence River on the Hootons Road. Can I have a move in a second to deal with this item, please? Councillor Forbes, I thank you. Seconded by Councillor Michael Petrie, and I thank you. And I'll hand over to Mr. Dell to present this report. Oh, Fiona, sorry.
Thank you again.
In joint, working together.
Yeah, through you.
Switch it on now.
Sorry.
Now you're
Very-
talking.
Very sorry. The Kyogle Council have approached Tenterfield Shire Council to part fund the bridge over the Clarence River on Hoodens Road. Kyogle Council applied for a grant, and there's some copies of that attached. Under the new Bridges Renewal Program, Round 4, to upgrade the bridge from timber to concrete at a cost of $1.8 million. An amount of $700,000 was allocated to Kyogle from this funding source. And it's been proposed that Tenterfield Shire Council and Kyogle Shire Council share the remaining cost of $1.1 million, which would be $550,000 each. Now, this bridge is a shared bridge between Tenterfield and Kyogle councils, so we're both responsible for it, really. But obviously, it's better if one council takes responsibility for doing the works on a particular bridge at a time. As you can read in the report, while the request to fund this bridge falls outside of our proposed bridge works for the current financial year, the bridge does currently have a condition rating of 4 and a 9-tonne load limit in place. And given the importance of the bridge for both Tenterfield and Kyogle councils, particularly for the farming in the area, there's an argument that now's the ideal time to undertake this work to remove the load limit and bring this bridge up to a level 1 condition. I just noted in there also that council had this bridge totally on our books in error, so it should only have had 50% of it on our books in terms of the replacement value. And so we'll be getting a new asset basically for a fraction of the cost, $550,000. I've outlined there some options in terms of funding, and the suggested recommendation is that that our contribution to the project, if it's agreed upon by council today, be funded by a variety of different sources at the determination of the Chief Executive Officer on advice from myself when the payment falls due to Kyogle Council. And there's a few other recommendations, as you can see outlined there. While on the topic of the funding source, I did want to make mention of the fact that I know councillors are aware that there's a new Stronger Country Community round of funds available, round 3, and there's an amount of $781,208 allocated to our council area for this purpose. Of this amount, 50% is required to be allocated to projects supporting young people. Yeah, I'm just suggesting as a thought, and in the mix of councillors' deliberations as to what this funding will be used for, that perhaps half of this funding could go towards this project to help offset the cost.
Councillors, questioned the reports there, and thank you, Paul. In a meeting with the CE9 and Paul only a couple of weeks ago, I commend Paul on how quick he's put this report together. I think it's a lot of detail, and it is exactly what we're looking for. So I do thank you. But questions to the report, Councillor McNish, yes? Microphone, please, councillor.
Yep. How do you define young people? Under 21 or something like that?
That's a good question, actually.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe, from memory, it's 18 to 25. I think 25 is the...
I think the wording says youth, doesn't it?
Yes. Young people, it says.
It might be 24 or 25.
Okay, fair enough. I'm just outside that. Just on these Stronger Country Communities, I was on the impression that some of it would be spent on the country halls out of this program. Was I mistaken, or do we discuss that?
At the workshop, if I can, councillor, at the workshop, I just thought whether the halls come into that. I will, councillor, it's a really good question, because I hate going back, but I will. Back in Kevin Rudd's rule of the country, Labor, this council received a substantial amount of money to do with whatever they call that, Kevin 07 money, we called it. I know a lot of money was spent in restumping of, I know that Irvinville was restumped, Sunnyside was restumped. That was out of that funding. Definitely in our workshops, I mean, council is quite entitled to bring that forward and do work, but we need to know what work is needed to be done on those halls. Yeah, but great suggestion.
We talked about at a workshop that, like, the last round of funding went to the villages and the Memorial Hall mainly.
Yeah.
And it might be the turn of the halls. I was asked that question at Steinbrook the other night, that's all.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking.
No, very good question, and because a part of that money could be distributed to what halls that need doing. As we speak, legumes getting work done on it. And am I correct in saying, Mr. C, are we funding that, or is that through the first round of that money?
We're funding Legume in a roundabout sort of way,
Yeah.
because the money that we would have normally had to spend on all the halls combined was reduced because we got money for the Stronger Country Communities to do Liston Hall and other things. So we lost on the roundabout, but we gained on the hurdy-gurdy. So we spent it's about 45K from memory. It might be 55K on Legume Hall to fix that up because we saved money in other areas.
And by all means, councillor, to repeat myself, if Thornbrook of that through the progress out there are indicating that they'd like to receive some money to that, by all means, bring that forward, because now's the time out of that pool of money. Yeah, and listen, to their credit, as the CE just mentioned, they're doing a wonderful job up there. I think the tune of about 110 or 11,000, Councillor Very, I think, isn't it? 111,000, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Janelle Saffin sent them a great application form, but I thought it would have gone through council first rather than.
No, I'm with you, councillor.
Yeah.
By all means. But we still haven't secured, we've had that workshop, and I apologise, councillor, if you were there or not, and we dealt with that 700 odd grand, and the CE needed to know what we were indicating that we're. No, and we haven't finished.
But that wasn't for the second round, was it? That was just the first round?
No, that was the third round. We had a meeting. When, that would have only been recently about.
We spoke about the third at the last.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
about a
last
fortnight
workshop,
ago.
councillor.
Okay, I was there, but,
Yeah,
okay.
you didn't, wasn't a Drake progress meeting, you didn't have to go early, did you, no?
Probably would have been.
Anyway, it was definitely spoke about, but councillor, fully supporting your idea, but bring it forward because nothing's decided on that money yet.
So how do I go about bringing it forward, Mr. Mayor?
Do you want me to do a Merrill minute?
That'd be lovely.
No, councillor, at
I'll support that one.
at the next workshop, councillor.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Three, Mr.
CE.
Mayor. Nolene mentioned it's definitely on the agenda for the next workshop.
Yep.
If you remember the Stronger Country Communities, number 2, it took us a bit of a while to work it out. It's not something that gets done in 5 minutes. So the halls and other skate park, I think, was mentioned before. And
Because youth.
there's quite a few things, but it'll take a couple of workshops and a fairly robust council meeting, I'd suggest, but we'll get there.
Because just remember, before I go there, councillor Peters, remember the wonderful trip we had last time, would we 4 or 5 times before we got to the final of it, with that $1 million? So everyone's in the same, this is the same as this is state government money. Yeah, it's not the $1 million from the feds. So anyway, it's all good. Councillor Peters, I apologise.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, I don't know how it'll go, but where you've got a rural fire shed that doubles as a hall, does it attract any finance?
Councillors, I'm going to take your comment. Just remember, we're dealing with this, what we've got on our books. We're dealing with, being supportive of this. I'm going to take your question, councillor, but we need to get back on what we're dealing with. And I apologise if I've got off track a bit. Paul, that's your fault because you mentioned that funding. So it is. So anyway, councillor, I'll take you, please give you the question again, please.
Does the rural fire shed that doubles as a hall, does it attract any funding from the committee?
Can you give us an example, councillor?
Well, we had a hall at Sandy Flat, right? It was pulled down and moved into town here.
Okay, yeah, I'm with
We've got
you.
a fire shed there now, which
Yeah.
doubles as a hall.
Right.
So does it attract any funding as a hall? Just an interesting question. I don't know how to go.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll take that on notice and look into it for you.
Good question, councillor, and you've raised a really good point because the community out there is using it as a meeting place, which is important. And I know that there's a beer fridge there because I've partaked in it, which is important for that community. Yeah, but that's a good one to bring forward. Yeah, okay. Questions to do with the report to Paul or Fiona, councillors? Councillor Murray.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The demolition of the existing bridge down at Hooton's Creek and the upkeep or the maintenance on the new bridge, is that also shared in the cost?
It's an hour shy, councillor.
That's all inertia.
You're not, you're aware where this one is?
Yes.
This is up the northern end where we meet Kyogle. So are you talking about this one or are you talking about Emu Creek?
I'm talking about it.
Yeah, well, that's ours. Yeah. I'm sorry, Paul, if I've jumped in there. Yeah, it can be a bit confusing. It's all good. Councillor Lee, questions? Yeah, Councillor Rogan, by all means.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just questions if I could,
Yep,
just
of course.
to enlighten me. The importance of the bridge in reference that's made here to the Blueberry Farm and their operations is are we assuming therefore that their production will increase because they'll be able to use bigger? And so is there going to be an economic benefit?
Good
to our
question.
shop? And the second question is about the oversight by including Tenterfield Shire Council and the oversight that's not going to ruffle any feathers with Kyogle Shire. Thanks.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I think it's important with the bridge over the Clarence is currently limited to 9 tonne. So that would make a huge economic difference to the ability down there at the Blueberry Farm to cart in and out. So I think there is an economic benefit.
Yeah, understood. But as the Blueberry Farm, have they been spoken to about this? Or are we just assuming that?
Well, you go,
Sorry,
Fiona. I can speak on that.
They're actually contributing to the bridge itself. They're a co-contributor to the funding.
To both bridges. I mean, councillor, if I can share that with you, they've been outstanding. And with the development of the Blueberry Farm and the continued development, this council and Kyogle have worked very hard to be supportive of that industry. And it is an industry because in this season, there's over 500 people in there. And that with that, it brings us problems. To share that information with you and be supportive of Fiona and information that she's given to you, they've been as good as where they don't use heavy transport. They've even hired smaller trucks so they can still access that Blueberry Farm, but at a huge cost to them, councillor. So it's at least that this council, we've been successful in gaining the funding to build a new bridge at Emu Creek, which hopefully will start towards the end of the year, Mr CE, and then to be supportive of Kyogle, what they wish to do. And I commend them on gaining funding for the one over the Clarence. So very good question, and the CE is going to answer your second question.
The wording in dot point 1 in the last half of dot point 1 was actually quite deliberate because the grant application that's attached is at a high level, and I want to make sure that Tenterfield Shire Council, because we actually own half the bridges, or half the bridge, I should say, that we've got input into the construction and contract management. So I don't know whether Kyogle will take offence by it, but it's a risk if we just walk away and let them manage the whole thing without us controlling it, because we're half responsible for it.
Thank you.
Councillors, any more questions to do with the report? I just take the opportunity to say a few things to do, how important this is. And I do have a question for Paul to do with the report. It's only clarity, that's all, if you're wanting an outcome. Mainly to do with number 3, actually. So it is, but councillors, this is so important with us and Kyogle. Kyogle were, when Brewery Creek collapsed, they offered us, when we contacted them, that Bailey Bridge, let's call it, that's in there at the moment. And I won't ever forget that. They helped us out big time. They are a great neighbour to us. We have a water agreement with them, where they buy water off this shire to provide to the town of Woodinbong and the Aboriginal settlement of Mully, and we supply that water to them from the newly updated over the last few years water treatment plant from Urbanville. It is a very good relationship. This strengthens our relationships. The one thing that I've always done in my time on council, it always amuses me where we join our neighbouring councils and rivers and creeks and bridges become problematic. Where they say, oh, it's yours, or we meet you in the middle. Just get on with the job and build a bloody bridge. It's the cheapest thing we'll ever do. And it's a substantial bridge over the mighty Clarence River. And for 550K, I think it's one of the best things we've done. And it's supportive of them and it fosters that cross-council relationship. And I do need to comment that because I think it's a healthy thing we do. To you, Mr. Della, do you need, where we've got number 3, the council's contribution to this project is funded by, when it goes A to D, are you after that we do one of these, or is it just we'll leave that and you'll do it at the time of one of these?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. The intention is that of this wording of this recommendation is
Yep.
that it'd be at the discretion of the Chief Executive Officer
Okay.
in conjunction with myself.
Okay.
And as mentioned, there might be other opportunities for grant funding.
Okay.
So
Well, if I can go back to, and I'm sharing this, it needs to be discussed, so the whole council's all over it. If we do use a bit of that fixing country communities over, I've got that one right? Stronger communities, say whatever, we mightn't, and then we might borrow, say we use 200 of that and when we borrow 350 or something.
through
That's
you,
rough, but
yes,
yeah.
yeah, we'll look at the funding
Okay.
as it comes up.
Okay. Righto. Thank you for that, and I'm sorry to take time up, councillors. Councillors all happy, the officer's recommendations there, all in favour? Again, carried. Thank you. Councillors, I'm going to suspend standing orders and we'll do our Australian citizenship ceremony. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to suspend standing orders? Councillor Sawyer, thank you. Second, please. Councillor Tom Peters, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried.